Hey, everybody. If you are viewing, go ahead and say what's up in the comments and make sure y'all is sharing this live, the Hood Talks podcast. We is in 2022. Can y'all believe it? A whole new year. A whole new year. Hey, what is up? What's up? What's up? I see you. I see you. We got some YouTube viewers coming through. Hey, y'all. Hey. Well, good afternoon. It's noon, right? It's 12 o'clock. It's Saturday. It's cold outside. It's cold outside. But shout out. Shout out to the Hood Talks podcast. Shout out to our first ever sponsor. That is right. The Hood Talks podcast has a sponsor. Did y'all check out that let me let y'all see it one more time. Let me Renee's Remedies. Yes, sis got the products. She got all the products. All the products. I'm talking about body butters. She got all the good stuff. And they're all organic and vegan products for your body. Is this right here is a special one. Because this is nipple cream. This is for, come on, mamas. You know, when you're breastfeeding, your nipples all cracked up and hard because them babies just sucking you dry. Y'all know that struggle. What? I got the remedy. No, actually, Renee's Remedy. She got the remedy. Shout out to her. Yes, shout out to this Black-owned company, family-owned Black business. Go ahead. Make sure y'all go out here and support us. Let me show you one more time. Renee's Remedy. Go ahead and purchase Renee's Remedies at reneeremedies.com. Sis is on it. Get it. Go get it. Tell her the Hood Talks podcast sent you. All right. That's how we doing. We got a sponsor. Shout out to her. Thank you for sponsoring the Hood Talks podcast. Thank y'all for joining me for this conversation. We are about to get in it. We about to get this show kicked off and started. Appreciate my guests. I'm going to bring them on. But y'all know how we do. This is how we going to officially kick our show off every time. Because this is dope. It's dope. We dope like that. Y'all ready? Woo! Yes, it always gets me every time. Hey. Welcome to the Hood Talks podcast, y'all. Today we are talking OMG, a conversation with families around their traumatic birthing experiences. Now, we know, right? Black women right now, it's a big talk. It's a big conversation about how Black women are 3 times more likely than their white counterparts to die during childbirth. We've talked about doulas. Y'all know we talked about midwives. We talked about all that good stuff. But I have not yet had conversations with people themselves who have been impacted by traumatic birthing experiences. So I'm joined here with some great guests. Shout out to them for coming here and sharing their stories. I appreciate it. I'm going to let them go ahead and introduce themselves to you all. So let's get this conversation going. Come on, Miss Lakeisha. Go and tell the people who you are.
I knew you was gonna go with me first. My name is Lakeisha Reddit. I am a doula, community health worker in the St. Louis region. I own Virtual Sleep Birth Doula Services, and I am a mother of 3 boys, 2 angel babies, and I've had like a gajillion different birthing experiences, I guess you could say, maybe more like 5. So I've had the C-sections, I've had the traumatic birth, I've had 2 miscarriages, I've had, a birth that was redeeming and that made me feel like that was the birth that I absolutely always wanted. And so that's part of the reason why I became a birth worker, although my birth working journey started in 2009. So with the birth of my first baby. So yeah, I'm just here to share that story centered around my now 10-year-old's birth. And we can just, go from
Well,
there.
thank you for joining me. I know this is going to be a tough conversation, but definitely needed. So I appreciate it. Come on, Miss Christina. Tell the people who you are.
Hello, you guys. I am Christina Renee. On Facebook, I'm Christina Renee, the doula. I am a full spectrum birth and postpartum doula. I own my little baby doula services, and I offer sexual health education, breastfeeding education, all of those different type of things. I have three babies, one angel baby, two live births. Um, My oldest baby is 4, and my second baby is my angel baby. And I just had a son, my first son, who I am in love with, 4 months ago. So I have been a doula since 2016, and I actively started birth work in 2017. I love what I do, and I'm just here to share my story with you guys.
Well, thank you for being here. Congratulations to the newborn. Well, not necessarily newborn, but he's still an infant. That baby's still a little bitty baby. Kisses to the baby. Well, come on, Mr. Marvell and Mrs. Marvell and Vaughn. I was putting the two together. I'm sorry. But y'all linked together. So hey, come on and tell us
Very,
who you
very much
lovely
are.
couple, who you are.
Thank you. I'm Marvella. I am the owner and operator and doula of Embrace Birthing, and that was actually first from one. I've always loved health. I've always loved babies and things like that. But I did also in 2009. I had a very traumatic birthing experience. Unfortunately, he was not there for the experience. We were not together yet, but he was impacted on our second birth and how the traumatic birth impacted me on my behavior and just how we addressed the situation. He didn't know how bad it was until we had our second child. So we had two little girls. Well, one's not so little. We have a 12-year-old and a 5-year-old. But I have a very supportive partner who is actually very supportive of my doula journey. He pushed me into it. And we just do this thing. And I'm thankful that because he has daughters, he is very open to learning about everything about women because he is like, it ain't happening to my baby. So
That part.
he's here.
That part. And I appreciate you for being here because that was one of the things that I really, really wanted for this conversation also is to bring in the men's point of view, because that's a valid point of view. And that's sometimes the point of view that's also missed in this space. So again, I very much appreciate you joining us. So please, I know she kind of introduced us you a little bit, but go ahead, tell us who you are.
I'm Vaughn. Obviously, I am Marbella's wife.
You're my wife.
Yeah.
You said I'm my wife.
I am I guess I'm the quiet half of Embrace Birthing, and I'm trying to be as supportive as a father and a husband as I can. As you said, we have two girls. One is a preteen, and one is a toddler. So we're trying to. It's a big gap in age, and trying to, you know, you, they always say you kind of mess up with your first kid to try to get your second kid correct, but I'm trying to not mess her up as bad.
It's the
so
process, right?
right. And I know a lot of men that see things very differently than I do, let alone some of the females that I hang out with and the women that I work with or interact with or are friends with, and just seeing how they've gone through their life and things they've had to endure. And a lot of men don't consider those things. And like I said, being a father of two girls, I want to make sure that I can try to at least be a safe space for them and alleviate that as much as possible.
Shout out to you, safe space. I love that. Shout out to you. Shout out to all of you. As someone who has themselves experienced a traumatic birth, I know this is a very touchy subject. I know it's very you never really get over it. You kind of like try to heal, but you never forget. So I'm here holding space as much as possible for you all as you share. I just truly believe we have to uplift our stories. So let's go ahead and get into it. Please, whoever feels the confidence to go first, please share about your birth experience and what made it traumatic for you.
I guess I'll go first. um, so my My traumatic birth happened August 29th, 2011 at 3:49 a.m. I remember like it was yesterday. Um, so my pregnancy, let's start with the pregnancy itself. The pregnancy itself was absolutely normal. I didn't have any gestational diabetes. I didn't have any preeclampsia. I didn't have any of those diseases of pregnancy that could possibly pop up um, during your gestational period. I didn't have any of those things. My son was 39 weeks and 4 days, so he was term baby. Um, labor started at home normally. At the time, I was married, so this he was our second boy, complete boy mom over here. So he was our second boy, and labor started at home. Um, I hospital bag wasn't packed. He fell asleep. It was a lot of other stuff that happened like prior to that, like having to rush and pack hospital bags. Um, the crazy part about all of this though is that I had doulas with both of my pregnancies.
Mm,
So I had a doula with my 12-year-old. I had a doula with him.
mm,
Um, they were student doulas. So
mm.
granted, and white women. So let's put that out there too.
Okay.
Um, now I was in Little Rock, Arkansas at the time that I had both my children. I was going to grad school down there, and when I learned about doulas, I learned about doulas from What to Expect When You're Expecting. I think everybody like at some point read that book when they were expecting their first baby.
Yeah,
Cliche book you could pick up.
I was about to say, yeah. I
Yeah,
didn't even think about reading that book. But go ahead. It's okay. I
it's like
get
a cliche book. What's the first book you ever read? What to Expect When You're Expecting.
it.
Um, so I learned about doulas through that book, and so I went on a search for doulas, and I found an organization called BirthWorks.
Mm,
Um, and BirthWorks had a central location in Little Rock, and I joined their program for free doulas, and you could use their student doulas as your doula, and to give them birth experience, all that stuff.
mm,
Um,
wow.
so I literally no black faces in that space. Um, the
Mm,
closest black doula to me at the time was in Missouri, believe it or not.
wow.
It was in Kansas City. Um, and so I just was like, okay, well, I'll just take,
Whatever you
what
can
I can
get.
get. Yeah.
Right.
So these doulas, that's the backstory. They were there for both births, same doulas. Um,
Wow.
as a matter of fact, the nurse that was there that night, I started doula training after I had Dylan, who is my 12-year-old.
Okay.
And so she was there that night that I had Landon, which is
Mm,
my 10-year-old. And she was also my doula mentor. So keep all of that in mind
wow.
as we're talking through this story, okay?
Okay. Wow.
So, three doulas in this room, the nurse and my two student doulas. The only black faces in the space were me and my now ex-husband. Okay.
Wow.
So, none of the nurses that came in to help were black. No, nobody. We were the literal only black faces. So, with
Mm,
that being said, when I got to the hospital, normal check in, all that stuff, normal labor. But I remember at one point the nurse doing a cervical check, and she was like, "Oh, well, I think you're ready to deliver." And I'm like, "Yes, we got to have a VBAC because I had a C-section the first time, about to have my VBAC or whatever." And so the doctor comes in. First of all, this is not my doctor. This was somebody else that was on call that night. So I
okay.
thought that was strange because he didn't know anything about my medical record. My doctor and I had the agreement that we would do intermittent monitoring because continuous monitoring because I was a VBAC.
Right.
So he decided to let me do intermittent monitoring, which I didn't have a problem with it. Everything was seeming to progress
Right.
normally. But he comes in, does his cervical check, and they literally walk out the room. So now it's just me, my husband, and the doulas like looking at each other like, what the hell just happened? So they walk out the room and they come back, and I see it vividly. Like He goes, there's a couch in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
He goes and sits on the couch, spreads his arm on the back of it, like it just sits there. And then she goes to the cow, which, if you know what medical is computer on wheels. She goes to the cow and she starts charting. And I'm like, so
Right. Right. Girl, look, I'm like, what?
did you just tell me it's time for me to have this baby? Like, why are we just sitting here casually? Like
There's nothing to be done.
there's nothing to be done. Like, what the fuck? Anyway, so
That part. Right. What?
we just sitting here. We just literally sitting here looking at each other like,
You see my face. Like, what? Okay.
like, okay. So then he sits there for like 5 minutes and gets up and walks out. And I'm like, I asked her, I said, so is it not time to deliver the baby? Like, what's happening? And he was like, well, she was like, well, he just kind of feels like it's not time yet. We're just gonna give you a few more minutes and go from there. And so I'm continuing to labor. Like, I don't know what centimeterage I'm at. I don't know nothing at this
They
point.
haven't even said anything.
They haven't said anything. So I'm just like, okay. So I'm steady laboring.
That's crazy.
Turning at this point, they wanted me to stay in the bed, which I thought that was kind of weird.
That part.
And so all of a sudden, everybody starts rushing in. Like, there are no alarms going off, nothing's blaring, nothing happened. And so suddenly I'm being like maxed with oxygen. They're telling me to breathe. They're like, hey, put this oxygen on. Something's wrong with the baby. And I'm like, well, what's wrong with the baby? And they're like, they can't hear me because of all the commotion going on. And I got this oxygen mask on.
Wow.
So they're like, okay, turn on your left side. So I turn on my left side. Still no heartbeat. They literally take the internal fetal monitor and stick it in. Like, don't ask me shit. Just start doing stuff. Excuse my language.
Violation.
A lot of bombs. I'm sorry.
No, look, real and raw over here. We keep it real and raw.
They literally were still like, they were just doing shit without saying anything.
Any consent.
Right?
Any consent.
No consent. And so they were like, okay, you're complete. It's time to push. And I'm just steady trying to ask about my baby.
Because now you're probably stressed out. And
I'm stressed out. I don't know what the hell is going on.
No communication.
And Landon was born not breathing. His heart rate, come to find out, was down to 20.
Wow.
They had to resuscitate him. The cord was wrapped twice around his neck, and it had a knot in it. Later on, I found out, and I'm trying not to get teary-eyed.
I know.
Later on, I found out for 4 hours he was deteriorating. They did nothing. He should have been an emergency C-section. Had he been an emergency C-section, he would have been normal.
Okay. He just sat back. I'm sorry. Let me rewind so people can understand. He sat back, for those who didn't hear, put his arms up while he knew and understood that your baby was in distress.
Yeah.
Come on.
And I just want to say, you don't cover them tears, girls. Black
Don't,
women cry. We need to be okay. Black women cry. We feel pain. Don't hide that.
I know. I know. It's just
the way you speak.
You know, the fucked up part about it all,
come on,
was that he tried to pray with us. And at the time, I was in church, you know, like, long story, won't go there. But at the time I was in church. And so he was like, the nurses are like frantically working on him in the background. He's stitching me up. First of all, he gave me an episiotomy without me asking. And I get the baby was in distress and all that stuff, but no episiotomy was absolutely a part of my birth plan. I didn't want one. So he, stitching up the episiotomy, they didn't give me enough anesthesia. So I'm feeling all of the stitching. Not only that, you're working on my baby over here. And after he stitched me up, he was like, can we just pray? And looking back at the time, I remember thinking, like, first of all, I was like, God, I know you didn't let me carry this baby for 9 months for something to have happened to him, for him to be born and die. Like, I know you did not bring me this far to leave me, right? So, I've told this story many times, and it's the first time in a long time I cried about it. So, excuse me.
Because we never forget. We never forget. That's the part.
So, my doulas were non-existent after my baby ended up in the NICU. They were non-existent. They did not come and check on me. They did not make sure we were okay. They did not offer me any resources. They did not, um, and because the nurse was connected to the doula organization that I was working with, I think all communication stopped.
Wow.
Um,
They abandoned
because
you, basically.
they abandoned me.
Yeah.
So my son spent 7 weeks in the NICU. Um, he ended up not being able to breastfeed. He didn't have a suck reflex. He had severe brain damage.
Mm.
Um, he was diagnosed with what's called hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy, which is a uh, very fancy word for asphyxia. So
Mm.
basically, lack of oxygen during birth. Later on, he was diagnosed with cerebral palsy.
Mm.
Landon suffered a second setback in 2013 where he had sepsis of an unknown cause. We still don't know where it came from. So he suffered more brain damage with that particular incident. Um, so now, well, he came home from the hospital after the 7 weeks. He came home with just a G button.
Mm.
So he was feeding tube dependent. I nursed until I exclusively pumped until I couldn't exclusively pump anymore. Because the stress of everything, I just didn't have any breast milk. Okay. I was
Understandable.
after 7 weeks, my boobs were like, girl, what you thought? You are not making any more milk for this baby. So he
Mm.
ended up having severe milk allergy. So he ended up on prescription based formula alimentum at the
Yeah.
time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, yeah, so in 2013, he suffered sepsis right before his second birthday.
Mm.
And he ended up with severe brain damage. So now, if you follow me on Facebook, everybody knows Landon is ventilator dependent. He is trach dependent, G button dependent. He gets 16 hours of nursing services a day, state regulated services. So I'm a special needs mama. Um, and one of the things that's near and dear to me is supporting women through that. I've had one NICU baby as a doula.
Mm.
Mom, baby suffers shoulder dystocia. So for those of people that don't know what that means, the shoulder got stuck in the pelvis. They had to break the clavicle for baby to be born. So her baby had to be in the NICU. And can you imagine, as a doula, going through a traumatic experience with another person? I do not ever want another woman to feel as abandoned as
Yes.
I did. Um, and if she ever tells her birth story, she'll tell you, I did not leave her side. I came and checked on her and the baby in the NICU. When she came home, I checked on them. I made sure that they were okay. Because sometimes, as people who have been through things, we try to be that for others because
Mm-hmm.
we know what it's like when we haven't been to the space.
Yes.
When we haven't had that support brought to our space, we try to be that for other people. I have been through therapy. I got diagnosed with postpartum PTSD
Mm-hmm. Real. It's real.
5 years after my birth. I self diagnosed during doula training,
Mm-hmm.
went to a therapist, and, I've been, because one of the things that happens as doulas, we come to birth space a lot of times because of trauma.
Yep.
And I didn't take birth doula clients for 2 years after I trained because I wanted to heal first. I
That
wanted
part.
to make sure that I wasn't bleeding on my clients
Yes.
before I took them on. So I didn't take my first birth till 2018. And so, yeah, it's just, that's my
Thank
experience.
you. Thank you, sis. Thank you, sis. I appreciate it because I understand. I feel it. I know it's hard, but your story is going to make impact. It's been making an impact. You've been doing the work. You are so appreciated. You are a dope doula. Thank you for everything that you do, Lakeisha. You know, I got nothing but love for you. Nothing. Nothing. Thank you, sis. We gonna keep it moving for time's sake. I know that was heavy, y'all. So take a breath, breathe, but we got more. We got more. And why? Because we need change. Don't let me get started. But we got more. Come on, Miss Christina. Come on, love. Come tell us. Tell us your story.
Hello again, you guys. Again, my name is Christina, and whew, I've had 3 C-sections. Um, the first one was they told me because of my size, and I had gestational diabetes, and all the
Mhm.
fluff that they tell you.
As a
Um,
fellow big sis, I hear you, sis.
Yes, all the fluff that they tell you when you're a heavier, plus size, pregnant woman, a black woman at that. And I went through that, not knowing, but not really knowing because at the time I was a doula, but not really knowing because I'm still a first time mom as well. 2 years later, after my daughter, I had my second daughter, which is my angel baby. um Starting back, that pregnancy was stressful. When I got pregnant, I was stressed out. Throughout the pregnancy, I was stressed out. um Hell, after the pregnancy, I was stressed out. um and it was just a really stressful, traumatic situation. That pregnancy was stressful, and it was going normally, actually, with all the stress and stuff that I was dealing with, but you could tell on my face and in my body that I wasn't happy. And I want to say April or May, I took my gestational diabetes test, and I ended up passing both of them. They just told me to keep an eye out, make sure I'm just not eating trash or whatever. And I said, okay. So I did all of those things. I actually worked out throughout that entire pregnancy to avoid um, anything from happening to this baby that happened with my first daughter. I didn't lose her, but I did have gestational diabetes. So with that, I started having headaches. July, the beginning of July, middle of July, I started having headaches. And I'm thinking that it's hot. I'm just doing a lot because at the time we were renovating a rental property, and all of these other things were going on. So I'm thinking it's just me being me, doing too much as normal. The end of July comes around. I actually go to Missouri Baptist Hospital. And I'm like, hey, like, this is what I'm experiencing. I'm having headaches. I broke out in like a rash. My vision was blurry. All of these things. So they was like, okay, well, we'll take you back to triage and let's see what's going on. So they go back, and I go back with them, and they check me, and they were like, oh, well, everything seems to be okay. And I talked to the doctor. At the time, it was a older white man. Um, I want to say his name, but I'm not going to do that. But he told me that everything was okay, and they ended up doing an ultrasound just to make sure. And during the ultrasound, they were having a hard time finding Olivia's heart rate, her heartbeat. And when stuff is going on when you're in an ultrasound, and they start leaving out the room, Lakeisha, and then they come back, and they come back and they don't say anything until you say, hey, hey, is everything okay? Oh, yeah, everything is fine. We just need to do this one test, so we just need to check this, blah, 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 blah. So they end up checking, they do, I forget what the test is called, but it's a certain amount of
Oh, I'm sorry, you done froze.
baby has, and they pass. So they say, oh, well, she passed the test. We're gonna let you go.
Was it the non-stress test?
I'm sorry,
No,
repeat that one more time. You froze. What was the test? You
I
said
don't remember. I don't remember what the test was.
okay.
But it's some particular test that they do um, while they're doing an ultrasound to count the baby's the beats per minute. And
Oh,
if
okay.
they have like maybe 10 beats in 1 minute or something, then the baby's okay. Something like that. I can't think of the name of it right now.
Okay.
Um,
Understandable.
something like that, maybe. I'm not sure.
No,
Um,
go ahead. You fine.
and he says, oh well, she's okay. And I was like, okay, well, do I need to stay here for monitoring? Because if this is an issue, I don't want to go home,
Yeah.
and something happens to my baby. And he was like, oh no, I reassure you that you should be fine. We're going to send you home with this prescription, blah, 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 blah. Get this taken care of. Because like I said, I had a rash and some more stuff, a whole bunch of stuff going on, y'all. So, he sent me to Walgreens with maybe 5 or 6 different things I needed to get. So I'm talking to my family, trying to reassure them because I am the baby of the family, and you know how that goes. Everybody's worried about you plus the baby.
Right.
So with that happening, I went home. I sat and talked to my husband. I bounced on my ball, and I was still having these contractions. I was still having this headache. And I was popping Tylenol, baby, like they were peanut M&Ms. And peanut M&Ms are my favorite. So mind you, how often I'm popping these Tylenol. Popping Tylenol, hoping that everything is getting better. Um, and at this point, I'm talking to my mom, and I'm kind of getting scared. And I'm like, I just have this headache, and it just won't go away. And she says, well, Christina, did you eat? And I'm like, yeah, I ate. I always eat you pregnant. So I'm
Right.
always eating. That's not a thing. I'm always,
Right. So I'm taking care of myself.
yes, I'm,
Right.
doing all of those things. So I was like, yeah, mom, I ate or whatever. And she was like, well, check your blood sugar. And I was like, well, my blood sugar should be fine. I was scared and didn't want to check it, to be honest.
Okay.
And that is the very first time I've actually said that out loud.
It's okay. Safe place. No judgment.
And
It's real.
didn't check it because I'm thinking I'm doing everything differently than I did with my first baby. I'm eating healthy, I'm working out, all of these different things I'm doing differently this time than I did with my first pregnancy.
Right.
So I finally go in. My husband goes to work, and I told him that night. I said, I think I'm gonna go to the doctor in the morning because I'm still not feeling right. And so he goes off to work. It's a normal day. We take my daughter to school. I come back home and I lay down. My mom's blowing up my phone. It was like, hey, when are you going to the doctor? I'll get up because I'm tired. My vision is blurred. I got a headache. I'm cold.
Yeah.
And I remember that night before, I ended up getting in the shower at 2:00 in the morning. And I didn't even stand up in the shower. Now, mind you, I'm 33 weeks pregnant at this point, and I'm laying down, my pregnant butt laying down in my tub because I'm just trying to get some type of relief.
Relief. Yes.
And so I'm laying in the tub, butterball naked, just letting the water hit me. And I eventually got out and I went to bed. I slept, but I didn't rest. So, like I said, we got up. It was a normal day. My husband went to work. We took my daughter to school. I came home, lay back down. My mom called, and I finally called my brother because I couldn't drive because my vision is blurred, right? So I called my brother, and I'm like, hey, bro, can you come and take me to the hospital because I'm not feeling right? He got there. He stays in U City, and I stay on the South Side. He got there in maybe 10 minutes, so Lord knows he was speeding.
I was like, bro, wasn't playing.
He's like, let me get to you, child.
Okay.
So,
Shout out to bro. Shout out to bro.
Okay.
Yes. Come. Yes. Yes.
Shout out to Joe for your quick response.
yes,
Yes.
right?
Okay. Yes.
So I get to the hospital and they were like, yes, we were expecting you. Your doctor called XYZ, blah, blah, blah. We're going to take you back to triage and we're going to do an ultrasound. And I said, okay. So we go back and I give my brother all my stuff because at this point I'm thinking we're just gonna go on here and check in this baby. So I done brought my body pillow, I done brought my hospital bag, I got my snacks, all of these different things, preparing myself because I'm like, if they need to do a C-section, I'll be ready. I got my
Right.
clothes, all of this stuff.
Right.
So I do all of that, and they said, okay, well, we're going to go back and do ultrasound. So the ultrasound text comes in. My brother is standing off to my right. And I remember the room.
Mm.
I remember the room. And the lady, she's doing the ultrasound. And she says, well, we can't find a heartbeat. And I was like, oh, okay. It still didn't click in my mind. And I
Right.
was like, okay, can't find a heartbeat. Maybe she'll know what she's doing. I was like, well, is there somebody else? Because she's a white lady.
And real quick, because I want to tie something together. Because then the previous doctor them said the same thing, right? Didn't they tell
Yes.
you the first time too that they couldn't find the heartbeat, but then they said everything was okay?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
And so we're here at the doctor's a second time, and now they're saying they can't find the
They
heartbeat.
can't find a heartbeat.
Okay.
So, mind you, that day before, remember, I did ask to stay to be monitored as well.
Yes, you did. Yep. Come on.
So,
Talk about not listening. Not
and
listening.
they sent me home. So it's the not listening. It's the all of those different things.
Yeah, we know.
So I said, okay, well, is there another tech that could come in and check the ultrasound? So they bring another tech in, and she was like, yeah, it's the same thing. And I was like, no, I'm gonna just wait on my doctor. So my doctor comes maybe an hour or two later. At this point, my brother called my mom and my dad. We got a hold of my husband, and my doctor eventually comes, do the ultrasound, and it's confirmed that my baby girl is no longer here.
Mm.
And I'm 33 weeks and 5 days. And it still hasn't clicked. And it's almost 3 years and I'd had another baby. It still hasn't clicked to me that she's not here.
Because we don't forget. I'm sorry, I keep saying that, but that's
At
real
all.
and raw. We
Don't
don't forget. We don't. No matter how long it goes by, we don't forget. You never forget. But I'm sorry. I'm sorry, y'all.
You're good. You're good. So they tell me that, she doesn't have a heartbeat. And I was like, okay. So my doctor gives me the option because I've had a C-section before. He was like, well, you can either do a VBAC or you can have another C-section. So I'm talking it over with my husband. I'm kind of going back and forth. And I'm like, I don't want my first vaginal birth to be birthing a dead baby.
Mm.
I don't want that to be my experience. So but I'm still going back and forth. And I remember my mom was sitting in a room with me. She was sitting on the couch, but she was sitting forward on the couch. And she asked them to clear the room. And she was like, well, Christina, what do you really want to do? And I was like, Mama, I don't want to have no dead baby. Like, I don't care how this child gets here. Either way it go, I want to have a dead baby. And she said, I understand that, but I think it would be an easier way for you to go if you know that you don't want to have a vaginal birth and birth a dead baby, to just go ahead and have a C-section. And I'm like, oh, so I broke down and I cried. And my husband ended up coming back in the room, and I was like, babe, look, I made the decision. that I'm just going to have another C-section. It's not what I want to do, but I also don't want to birth this dead baby that won't be able to take home.
Mm,
We won't be
mm,
able to take this child home, any of that.
yeah.
We won't be able to hear her cry. We won't be able to do any of those things.
Mm,
Um, so I don't want to, it's traumatic enough, and I don't want to go through that traumatic experience of trying to have a vaginal birth and then possibly going through an episiotomy and all of these different things that I just didn't want to experience
yeah.
because it was traumatic enough, and I never want anybody to ever feel that way.
That part.
I never want anybody to ever feel the way that I felt leaving that day before and not really sure, and then coming back and knowing that something could have been done, something should have been done the day before,
Yes.
should have been done for me to have Olivia here instead of her cremated inside of a teddy bear in my oldest daughter room.
Mm, mm,
So it's just one of those things. And now with my current past pregnancy, I made sure that I communicated everything. And my doctor, I think he was really just trying to cover his own ass. So I was seeing him plus a high risk doctor
yeah.
because
Them. Yeah. Okay. I
yeah,
know.
because we don't want the same thing to happen that happened before. And I talked to him and I was like, but that could have been prevented. Even though it came back with the autopsy as it being gestational diabetes, did check my blood sugar when I got to the hospital before we did the second ultrasound, and my blood sugar was 570. I was at the stroke and seizure rate of.
Okay. I'm sorry. So
And I
why
wouldn't
did
do
they
that
not
because it
check
was
it the
both of
first
y'all.
time?
They did not check it the first time when I was at the hospital with the first doctor who did the ultrasound. No.
This is the one that said everything was
The fact
okay.
This
that
is the
you're
doctor
still
that said
See,
everything was fine and sent me home with 5 other prescriptions going to Walgreens.
What you say, Marvella?
I said the fact that she's still here, we need to be thankful.
That
yes,
Yes.
that part.
Like,
That
yo,
part.
even not being pregnant, that
That
type of
is
blood
dangerous.
sugar will take you
out
out.
of here,
Yes.
honey, out.
Yes, that part.
Like, the fact
And
that
it's
yo,
a
I'm just saying,
given. Go
I'm
ahead.
no, I'm just saying I'm in no way playing down Olivia at all. But the fact that you are still here for your other two children, I am so happy, and that is such a blessing
Because people don't
I'm so
make it.
sorry.
We're not
No,
making
they
it.
don't.
Right.
They
We're
don't
not.
make
That's
it.
real. That's real ish. We keeping it real and raw. We as Black women don't make it along with our children. So
Yeah,
that's why she's saying we are thankful that you are here to breathe again.
Yeah.
Yes, because we're not making it. It's real.
Yeah.
That could have really took you out.
Yes, it could have.
And then to be just so careless as someone who already has been diagnosed with that, you should have been checking it just because.
yeah,
That should have been routine. I know because I had gestational diabetes too. I did. So I understand and I know it's routine.
Yeah.
If that's in your file, you should be getting it checked. So
Yeah. So that happened. I had the C-section, and they came in, and I talked to a few nurses, but no Black nurses. All these white ladies. Oh, I understand. Some of the nurses not even having children. Um, so that's a point of contention as well. How can you understand how I feel? You've never even experienced the miracle of pregnancy or giving birth. So that's another factor.
yeah.
And so I dealt with that, and they came in within the next 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes after having her, and slammed a bunch of pamphlets down for funeral homes on my bed. It's like, hey, you need to pick a funeral home so we can do this.
So
No.
they didn't even give you the opportunity. They didn't come in with any empathy.
not right, no
They
empathy at
didn't come
all.
in with any.
And
And
let
as
me
a
say, these are
bereavement
different.
doula, 'cause I'm a
None.
bereavement doula, right? So as
No.
a bereavement doula, I'm kind of pissed off right now.
But let me say this. Let me make a point real quick, y'all, and we're gonna come to you, Marvella. These are different hospitals. Y'all hear me? Different hospitals. Because I didn't birth at Mobile. I didn't birth in Little Rock. And the empathy that you talked about, I didn't have that either. A pregnant doctor came in to tell me I was losing minds and told me they couldn't find my heartbeat. White, fully big and pregnant. And let's not talk about, Christine, how we already, when we're plus size, and they can't tell you that you don't look pregnant, right? You got in there, right? Oh, you don't even look pregnant. Oh, you're not that big, but big, and we can really see your baby, sis. You're gonna come and tell me as a Black woman that I'm losing my child, and you're here holding one. You couldn't have said, well, let me have some empathy for her. Here, doctor, take this and go in there and tell that girl that she's losing her baby, because I'm literally still holding on to mine. So they don't have any empathy. They don't have any respect. They don't care.
Yeah.
And that's the issue. That's the real issue. But I digress, because this is a touchy space for me also, y'all. I think I didn't have a good day yesterday because I knew I was coming for this conversation. Because it hurts. It does. Like you said, no matter how many times you tell a story, how many times you look at your kids,
it doesn't feel the same.
Yes, you still feel and see that shit clearly. And all because people don't want to listen to you or take you seriously.
And your body still goes through the same physiological changes as after you've had that child. You still produce milk. That was, I decided to
feel the pain. I literally had to labor my baby. I labored that. I ain't felt no worse pain in my life. Having that miscarriage, losing my baby. That it hurted just like labor pains. Like your body still has to go. Depression, postpartum depression, is still real after a miscarriage.
It's very real. Much so.
Yes. And even probably more.
The crazy thing is, I didn't have time to go through postpartum depression because I had to get back to being a mom and being a wife.
Going to work.
I didn't have time to focus on me and say, hey, I got to sit in this shit real quick and deal with it.
What'd you say, Marvella?
I said she didn't have time to grieve.
No.
I still
I went through the same thing, Christina. I didn't have time to grieve either, because even after he was in the NICU, I still had to come and pump. I still had a baby that was literally about to turn 2. I still was a wife at the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, I still had to do all those things. And one of the things that nobody talks about is the grief behind losing quality of life. Right?
That part.
Because my baby he didn't lose his life, but he lost his quality of life. You know what I mean? And so nobody talks about that part. My quality of life changed.
You lost your quality of life.
Yes, it changed a lot. Girl, listen, to this day, if my son does not have nursing services, guess where my ass is?
At home, taking care
of the house, honey. I'm in the house. So, you know, holding a job was hard. You know, that's why I had to become an entrepreneur. I had no choice, really. You know what I'm saying? Because I needed to make my own hours and still make money to support my family. But nobody talks about those losses. You know what I mean? Like, nobody talks about, well, you know, I'm sure Christina's heard this. Well, at least the other babies are here.
That part.
You know? I'm so sick of hearing that shit.
Wait, there's another one too. I was told at least you can get pregnant again. I had got my first pregnancy ever. I lost ever, and the doctor told me, "Well, you can get pregnant again." I was like,
"What? What kind of insensitive crap is that?"
Very, very much insensitive. Very. But
you don't even know if I want to go through this process again. So how do you?
That part. What? Like, really, sir? Yes, they horrible. But Marvella, come on, sis. We breathe, y'all, because we got another one.
We was like, you know what's going on around here?
Yeah, man.
And he's sitting up here talking about this is different doctors, different states, different hospitals.
Yes.
Everywhere. That's what he's talking about. Like, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. No. It's a system. It's a system. A whole system. A whole system. That's what what Ron said. It's everywhere. It's different places. It's different hospitals because there's a system.
Yep.
Come on, sis. Tell
So,
us.
so for us, I want to first say, put this just completely out there. We have our daughter, so I am in no way, shape, or form. I know we don't judge pain and we don't put it on a tally, but I just want to say, whether it's grieving loss of life, grieving loss, losing your child, I understand that is a different pain. We have had, well, I had a miscarriage, so I understand that, but I am, my story is actually about what happened to me, like, me. So I just want to put that out there. They're all different, but I am so sorry for all of you ladies, and I send you love and so much, like, just appreciation, and I'm just so proud that y'all told y'all stories. So, um, I'm gonna tell the story of my first delivery, and then he'll tell the story of how it affected us our second. So, I was completely healthy, except right at the beginning, I had that hypergravidum. I had horrible morning sickness. It was 2008, and so the economy was falling out of the bottom, and I lost my job, and I moved from South Georgia to be in Louisiana, in Shreveport, Louisiana, with my parents because I was going to be a single mom. And my dad was like, bring your ass, because if he ain't going to step up, you got it in. So I was like, I thought I was grown, but then my daddy let me know I wasn't grown, so I moved.
Shout
So
out to daddies.
I moved. Yeah, he was like, I don't care what you're talking about. So once I got over the hypergravidum, because at first they like I was only 115 pounds when I got pregnant. So I lost 9 pounds from being throwing up, and I was this weird color. I was like green. I couldn't even drink water because it felt like I was seasick on a boat. I could only eat popsicles and crackers. And I was eating popsicles and crackers for like 7 weeks, and that's all I could do.
Wow. Wow.
So I was super sick, and I remember going and I lost 10 pounds, and I remember the doctor at the time saying, "You lose 1 more pound, and I have to put you on high risk because that's 10% of your body weight." And I'm like, I'm freaking out, and unfortunately, but I guess fortunately, my great grandmother passed while I was pregnant, and her cousin was there and was like, "What's wrong with you?" And I was like, "I know I look like I'm on drugs, but I'm not. I'm pregnant." And she was like, "Oh, you sick, huh?" And she whipped me up some collard greens and some mustard greens, and she was like, "Eat it, she'll be fine." And I was like, "No, I can't eat nothing." She was like, "You can eat that." And I ate it. It was the first food I had held down in 7 weeks.
Wow.
I was so happy. I was dreaming of food, and I was so happy. I ate 3 bowls of greens, and I couldn't believe. And I was like, I don't even care if I throw up. I've actually had food touch my stomach at this time. I don't care if I throw up later. I have not had.
It's like
But
this is it.
Yeah, she's like, but then she told me eat these once a week. You won't be sick like that anymore. After that, perfect pregnancy. No swelling, nothing. But I had to go. It was my first time being on state insurance, so I'm on Medicaid. I guess it is Medicaid. Yeah. Um, so I have to see a state doctor. And I will be honest, this was a privilege. I was privileged at the time. My dad worked at General Motors. I had always had private insurance, and after him, I always had a job, so I always had private insurance. It's my first time going to a state doctor, and I'll never forget. I got about to I think it was like my 6th appointment with her, and she was like, "Oh, you come to all of your appointments," and I was like, "Well, aren't you supposed to come to all your appointments?" She was like, "Well, that's not common," and I was like, I don't. Yeah, I'm gonna be here. I don't understand. So this is Shreveport. I know it is the weirdest place I've ever lived in my life, and I'll ever have to go back.
I ain't going
They're
back.
really backwards. Like they're backwards. Um,
That's
so
crazy.
pregnancy goes great. I gain weight, she gains weight. Everything is fine. And I was 39 weeks and 5 days.
Mm.
And I'm getting up, getting ready to go to work. And I'm getting ready, and every once in a while I'm going, whew. And then I get ready, and my mom's like, "What's going on with you?" I was like, "All these Braxton Hicks are really kicking my butt today. I don't know why they just keep coming." So unbeknownst to me, my mom is timing my contractions. Because
Okay,
I didn't think I
mama.
was just going to go to work. I was just like, and my mom comes with this sheet. You've been contracting every 10 minutes. Blah, 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 blah.
Okay, mama.
I was like, okay. And I was like, well, I could probably still go to work. And she looked at me like I'm crazy. And I was like, well, you was in labor for 24 hours with me. I ain't about to have this baby no time soon. And it ain't even that bad. So she's like, how about no? You go call into work.
That
And
part.
I was like, okay. So I called into work. And I was like, I'm in labor. They were like, oh, yeah, don't come to work. We're good. We'll see you later. And I'm like, okay. So I labored at home. And I labored and I labored. I walked my dog. Walked the neighborhood, walked the hills, got in the shower, got in the tub. I'm gonna work this down. And they had told me, once you have your bloody show, go to the doctor. Go to the hospital. That's what they kept saying. So I finally had my bloody show, and by then it's like probably 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. So I had done 12 hours of labor at the house. So I'm like, okay, I go in, and I just remember them asking me all these dumbass questions. And they're like, I remember them going, what's your level of education? And I'm like, I'm finishing my bachelor's degree. And they go, no, your level of education. And I go, I said what I said. And they were like, how old are you? And I'm like, I'm 26. And they're like, and y'all know, right now, not being funny, I'm 38. I know I look like a child. I understand. So I look like a baby. I remember people.
What does that matter?
She was so excited. But I'm telling you, this place is different. When I tell you this place is different, it's like my mom would tell people she was excited, and they were like, your baby is having a baby. And my mom's like, she's 25. And they're like, oh. So it was like they asked me about my education. They asked me about my education, how old I was, all these other things. And then they tried to get my dad to sign a form about payment. My dad to sign. And I'm like, why does he? They were like, well, we need a backup. Just said, no, you don't. I'm grown. Don't get my daddy to sign nothing. So what I'm telling you, so all this is happening while I'm sitting up here still contracting. And I'm like, what? And
they worried about the wrong things. Excuse me. Your concern is about the wrong things right now.
So I get in the room and I'm like, and the lady goes, well, you need to be quiet. And I said, what? And she's like, you need to quiet down. And I was like, I'm having this. And she was like, well, we can just give you something for that. And I had already, I had read all these books. And the only thing, but I didn't know about a doula, but I had a plan in my head, but I didn't know about a birth plan. Like all these things I didn't know, but I had researched enough. And I was like, no, I want an unmedicated birth. And I remember that I said that, and that nurse looked at me and goes, you're going to be begging us for drugs. Just wait. And I was like,
yeah, that happens.
When you say you can remember it like it happened, I remember she looked at me and she sneered at me. Yeah. Like, all right. And so I'm like, and I get in there and I'm like, no, I can do it. My mom's like, you can do it. This is what you want to do. You can do it.
Yes, mama.
So
come
I'm
through,
fine,
mommy.
I'm this, I'm that. And I remember them coming in to check me. And I was kind of like, okay, maybe it's getting hard. Maybe mommy, it hurts. Like it hurts really, really bad. And this doctor had been coming in, and she had been real nasty with me, okay? So she checked me the first time, and I was sick. And she was like, you don't want anything? And I was like, no, I'm fine, da-da-da-da-da. But, it was like she did, sick. It was not, dude. And she hurt me so bad when she was checking me. And I was just like, ow. And she's like, well, just relax. And I'm like, yo, what is happening? So she's checking me, and the next time she comes in, she does something, and she goes to touch me, and she looks at the nurse and goes, why doesn't she have a catheter in? And she's like, well, she doesn't have an epidural. She doesn't need one. Put a catheter in her. And I go, I don't want a catheter. And she looks past me and looks at the nurse and goes, put a catheter in her. And I was like, I don't want a catheter. And I look at that nurse and I go, you can't do this to me. And my mom goes, I remember my mom is on this side of me. And she goes, my daughter has the right to refuse treatment. She has the right. And that lady put that catheter in me anyway.
What? I'm sorry, y'all.
I'm crying.
Okay, so I just had to come up off of mute, right? Because
right. We can't go over that. We cannot all go over that.
no,
we
we need to come back.
Right, we gotta address that right there. Because black women, you have the right to refuse treatments, even if you gotta sign yourself out. Because I've been approached about that too. You have the rights, okay? Okay, come on, Lakeisha, what you gonna say? I know.
Okay.
Horrible.
You deserve a check, Christina. You deserve a check, Marvella. I got my check. I'm gonna tell you that now. I sued the fuck out the hospital. Excuse my language. I sure did. And you got how's your baby? Oh, is this the oldest birth?
She's 12.
Oh, she's 12. So I was gonna say there's a statute of limitations of 2 years.
Oh yeah.
Or something to that effect. Maybe 3.
It's 5.
Oh, well, you still got time to file.
I know, I'm working on it.
But you deserve to check after that one because that ain't, that's all kind of neglect.
I think that's valid because this is what we're talking about now, holding people accountable, right? If we're not going to put policies and procedures in places to make sure that black women are getting what they need to be done, health, right, then what we're going to do is hit them where it hurts. And we know what hit them is that when we talk about starting threatening, taking away their funds, they live in to take their kids off to college, then we're gonna see change up in here. Okay. So that part right there. If the policies
I was gonna say you need some resources, you need me to help you. What you need, girl? What's up?
That part. Okay, come on.
It was the wildest. I mean, and it was so crazy because I'm thankful that I've never experienced sexual assault, and I'm very thankful for that. But that, and she's putting this catheter in me. Mind you, I don't have an epidural. So she's putting this catheter in me, and I can feel it because I don't have an epidural. So I'm like, oh my God, like this hurts so bad. Please stop. Like I'm crying. But I had been relaxed this whole time having my baby. As soon as she does that, then I'm like, now all the pain kicks in. So mind you, I'm stressed out. The doctor comes back in and texts me. And I'm like, well, maybe, I'm looking at my mom and I go, maybe I need some drugs. And they go, well, you're 8. And I'm like, well, never. And I say, never mind, I can do it. You know, I put myself back into my place. And I'm just like, da-da-da-da. And the next thing, the doctor was sitting at the edge of my bed, and I felt a burst of water. And I go, what did you just do to me? And she goes, I broke your water. And I go, you can't do that to me without telling me. And she went to go say something. She went to go touch me again. And then I finally was like, I said, if you touch me again, I'm going to kick your ass off the end of this fucking bed.
How do you break someone's water without getting consent?
I'm going to kick you off of this bed. I want a new doctor right now. And as soon as I said a new doctor, all these bells and alarms start going off. Mind you, my baby hadn't had any heart rate drops, nothing. She popped that water. My baby's heart rate dropped. All this stuff happens. And I'm like, what the fuck? No! So I'm freaking out. I am like, oh, my mom's freaking out. She's holding my hand. My mom is crying now. I'm crying now. And I'm like, I don't want this doctor in here. Get her out of here. Like, I'm freaking out. I'm upset. And I'm just like, okay. How do I, what's happening? And they're like, well, now the baby's in distress. Now we need to do this. Now we have to give you an epidural. And I'm like, y'all just wanted this check because I was done. 8 centimeters, you're done. Like,
yes.
This baby.
You're done. Why is she even breaking your Okay.
Why are you even breaking my water?
Wait,
this is break my water.
Oh, for those who don't know, 8 centimeters, you have to get to 10 to birth the baby. 8, you're at 8 and you have to get to 10. Come on now, sis.
All she literally had to do was stand up, and she would have been at 10 centimeters.
Move, right? That's it. She could have just went to the bathroom.
They wouldn't let me get out the bed.
Oh, that part. I hate that.
They won't let me get out the bed. And I was like, I don't have an epidural. I want to stand up. They were like, no, you can't get out the bed. And I was like, I don't have an epidural. I don't want to lay in this bed.
You should have to.
So mind you, all this happened. So they're like, we got to give you this. So now they're giving me something to slow my labor. And then the anesthesiologist comes in. And the only person, and I will say this, and he was like a middle-aged white man, and I'm crying, and I remember him walking in, he goes, "What's wrong?" And I go, "I was fine. He broke my water, now my baby's business, and I was gonna have a natural delivery, and he tell me I have to do this. I don't want this. I didn't want an epidural. I don't want this needle in my back." And I was like, and I don't, and I would tell everybody laugh. I was like, and I don't want hemorrhoids. I don't. I want to push my baby the right way, and if you give me this, I don't know where to push, and I'm gonna end up with hemorrhoids, and I don't want hemorrhoids. And he's like, he goes, "I'll give you just enough." And I go, "Okay." And he was the only person, because I could still feel my legs, and I could still feel pressure, and I don't know what he did. He was literally the only person this whole time that listened to me. So he just goes, "Just take a nap, and you'll wake up and you'll have your baby." So my mom is still hold my hand, and I take a nap, and then I'm like, the baby's coming. Like, I wake up, I feel the pressure, I'm like, the baby's coming. So I have a new doctor by now, and she moves me to this room, and now I'm in the OR. Like, not in a room, in the OR, and it's on this cold-ass table, and they have me laying completely flat. I am flat, and I mean flat, with my legs in stirrups, and I'm like, I don't need to be like this. I want to sit up. No, you can't get up. I'm like, no, I want to get up. I don't want to sit like this. So all I remember is my mom taking my legs out of them stirrups and putting my feet in the stirrup. Like, she moved my legs, and my mom couldn't even see my daughter be born because my mom was standing behind me like this. So I could sit up like this. So my mom couldn't even be there to see her come out because she was pushing my back up because she knew I didn't want to lay flat.
That part.
And so I remember in the middle of pushing, and the lady goes, "Oh, she's kind of stuck. I'm going to cut you." I go, "Don't you fucking cut me. Y'all done did everything y'all wanted to do. Just let me tear. Just let me tear." And I pushed her out in 4 pushes. And she was fine. She was perfect. But they didn't give me my baby. They put my baby. Mind you, nothing was wrong. They put my baby in a box and wheeled her away. And I was like, I want my baby. Oh, we got to go do all these tests and all these other things. So they take my baby out the room. She goes to sew me up. And I'm like, hey, I can feel that. So I did tear. I had a 2nd-degree tear. She gave me some another minutes. She sewed me up. And I had told them that she was supposed to be exclusively breastfed. I go to my room, I'm waiting on my baby. I fall out. After baby, you're tired. I go to sleep. I wake up. It's the morning. I'm like, where's my baby? They come in like, oh, we had to give her a bottle last night. So they done gave my baby formula. So I finally get her, and I'm like, please. And she latched, and I was so happy. And then then I remember, this is why I wish I'd been friends with you, teacher. Because then I see the nursing consultant comes in, like, the lactation consultant, "Oh, I know she got a bottle. How's she doing? Is everything okay?" And like, she's asking me all these questions, and she's like apologizing. And then somebody from the hospital came in asking me questions, and I was just like, well, I honestly remember just going, I just want to get the fuck out of here. Like, I don't ever want to come back here, y'all. The worst people in the, like, I just could not wait to get home. I just wanted to get out of here. Like, I just remember all of that. And so I say my baby is safe. My baby is home. And I'm very thankful. I did not have the experience that y'all had. But for me, I was repeatedly assaulted. And then when she was checking me, not only did she shove her hand in there, I could feel her doing this. Like, and it was hard and aggressive. Like, I could feel, I remember saying, "Ow, you're hurting me. So this is what I experienced. So.
And those are valid though. No, Marvella, that is very, having my own, look at her. I've talked about my birth story
sexual
before.
assault.
Yes.
There was
violation, period. All the way around. Non-consent. You told them no and you kept going, lady. What?
Yeah, I tell everybody, I'm like, I experienced, like, people say obstetric violence and assault, and I was like, no, I was like straight, like, pretty much, like, the lady just did what she wanted to do with my body, like,
period.
Didn't care what I said.
But
and it was the really fact of me saying no repeatedly, and you still go do it.
And you still go and do it. Like, how you just not take in consent what this woman is telling you she does not want done to her? But go ahead, Lakeisha. What you was gonna
I
say?
was just gonna say that, first of all, um, the whole thing about I'm just like I'm at a loss for words. I kind of forgot what I was about to say, but I'm like
Yeah.
when I go through and like, because I have a doula training now, right? And when I go through and we talk to those doulas, I'm discussing with them the 7 steps to informed consent. And if you did not go through those 7 steps, baby, you did not get informed consent. And obstetric violence, that's what I was going to say, is very much so comparable to rape because
Yes.
it's the same thing. It's just done by the medical professionals
Yep.
that are giving the care, and I'm putting care in air quotes, and I'm using that word loosely because it's definitely not care.
No.
Um, it's just done by the professionals and not by somebody who is committing a crime. But both of them are crimes.
Yeah.
Both of them are definitely crimes, and that definitely is trauma that we don't talk about.
No, we don't.
Nobody talks about that. That's another form of trauma we don't talk about. We don't talk about the experience that we have, and we already as black women don't talk about trauma anyway.
That part.
And so I'm sure there are plenty of women out there,
Mm-hmm.
black women who have had similar experiences, who have, you know, not been able to give a name to it, know something was wrong, but yes, you experienced obstetric violence. If you were manipulated without consent, that is obstetric violence by your medical OB, your midwife, it don't a nurse, it don't matter who it is,
Cool.
that's
Yeah.
obstetric violence. Very much so.
Yeah, I do. So I can talk about it now. I like it's 12 years and I processed it, but I didn't process it until I told him, and it took me a while to tell him. And so he can tell you, we actually had a breakdown in communication when I was pregnant. We had a bunch of issues, and he did not know why. And it wasn't even until after we had our baby that I told him the full story, and he was just like, he looked at me the way y'all look at me, like this is a movie. Like you sound like you're lying to me, and I know you're not lying to me, but I want you to be lying to me. And he was like, I wish you would have told me. And I was like, I it was 7 years. We got pregnant 7 years after that, and I still was not ready to talk about it. Like,
Yeah.
and it still affected me. But he can tell you, like, I had a whole panic attack when we walked in the hospital. So
No,
he
and
can tell you.
let me say before you get started, Vaughn, thank you again for joining her, supporting her. You are just as valid in this. Like, I know you weren't there with that experience, but you were there the second time. You guys are just as much as important in knowing what's going on in these spaces as anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate you for being here and being by her side because that is so valid. Black men, y'all, if y'all listening to this, if you're hearing this, be in support of y'all black women. Learn about this process. Ask them how you can support them. Because sometimes we as black women don't even know.
True.
You heard me? Sometimes we don't even know. But ask. Just learn and be like, hey, baby, I figured this out, or I saw this. Be as engaging with that process of birthing as much as you possibly can because we need y'all too. I'm gonna say
Mm-hmm.
that. Come on, Mr. Vaughn, tell us. How did it affect her the second time?
First off, thank you to the three of you ladies for sharing your stories, and of course to my wife. I know it takes a lot to have these conversations, not that you need it, but I am proud of y'all for sitting up here and sharing this with everybody and making sure that you get your story out and helping people understand what people do go through. Um, for me, on the other end of it, as far as coming in after obviously our first child was born, I was not there. So during the process of our second child, all these things as a man, one, we don't think about. It's not something that we ever have on our radar. And as a black man, you grow up in different situations, different scenarios. I grew up in New Jersey, so it's a whole different culture living in the Northeast versus living in the Midwest and the South are very similar. in my opinion, versus to live in the Northeast. So the Northeast, I grew up within, I don't know, 10-mile radius, like 20 hospitals and teaching institutions. So everybody I know their entire life, anytime something happens, you just go to the hospital. So it never even registered to me when she kept saying she didn't want to have a birth in the hospital. Like, that's even a thing. Like, who does that? It's not the 1800s anymore. Why would I want to have a home birth? So all those things that I was completely ignorant about, not naive, ignorant, because I work in the medical space, and I worked in the medical space for years. So, but when you start having those conversations about having children, the first thing you think of is, okay, well, for me, first thing I think of is something goes wrong, then what? So that was always my fear. And we would have those conversations, and she was sharing with me her experiences, but it was like trickling out. And it was one of those things where I was just naive to the trauma that she experienced. So when you have those conversations, it's hard to share even with your partner what you went through and how you can go and move forward. So someone else like myself coming in as a stepfather situation, and growing our family to another degree after that, I was just thinking you hear stories about bad births and things, but to the point of we were talking about earlier, we didn't lose our daughter, so I'm thinking, okay, it wasn't that big of a deal. She has no developmental issues, things of that nature. So again, as a man, if it's not broke, you're okay. You as a man, you're always taught to suck it up. As a black man, you're taught to suck it up, keep moving, and you'll figure it out later on your own.
Mm-hmm.
So those are a lot of things that I came through now that there's still parts of that story that I just found out probably within the last 18 months. And we have a 5-year-old running around, and there's still a lot of that trauma that she still had to heal from, before she was willing to share that with me. And I've been to the facility, I've been past that facility, I know where she was, but like I said, I've worked in medical for years, and I know that how they look at us. I know that how they look at black women. I know that when you're not in an ideal financial situation, they're like, okay, well, you're just another one. So they just put you on a list and they treat you according to whatever protocol or prejudice they have moving forward. So I understand all those things as I've gotten older and become more of a mature man and a father. But at the time, for me on the husband side, like I was just panicked to the simple fact of, okay, what if this is my first child being involved with the whole birth process. So I'm thinking, okay.
He kept saying, what if something bad happens? And I'm like, I've done this before. Nothing bad is going to happen. I can have natural childbirth at a birth position. I don't want you there. But I want it. Like, that was our biggest thing. He's like, well, I found you a hospital that has everything you want. It has the birth ball. It has the pool. I was like, I don't want to go there. And I kept saying, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there. And he's like, I need this because I need to know you're going to be safe. And I remember one time I told him, I was like, that doesn't make me safe. And he just kind of looked at me, and I was like, that place doesn't make me safe. And then you could tell about when I walked into the hospital when we were supposed to have a baby, because I had to be induced, because our second baby, she didn't want to come out. We were 41 weeks, and
she said, I ain't coming out there.
And she was like, nah, Sissy made all the room. I'm good.
She said, this is where I'm supposed to be.
But yeah, we had tried walking, we had tried sex, we had tried everything to get her out of there. And we had we walked in for the induction, and he can kind of tell you how that went.
No, I mean, it was just more of a panic attack. It was like one of the situations where she just, I guess, all of the memories and trauma had flooded back to her as far as what had happened before, how it went about, and I didn't have the tools at that time, or probably even now, if it was to happen again later. So I know that, okay, this is what she's going through. Like, and it wasn't like something she could verbalize. It was more of her trying to pull herself together. And at the time, I'm just trying to be like, okay, don't fall, don't collapse, don't, hurt yourself and hurt this baby that we're trying to, bring into this world. And it's a full blown situation where I'm trying to, calm her and comfort her at the same time, and not letting her do something that's gonna, and she'll end up bouncing off the floor or something because she's just so like short of breath. So it was kind of probably one of the moments where I realized, okay, how bad this was. But again, like I said, I got bits and pieces of the story because she just couldn't bring herself to tell me everything. And
And I think as Black women, when we do have partners, we have to be open to this. And I know it's hard. I get it. I know. I respectfully understand truly how hard it is to try to even replay those moments in your head and even talk it out. But we have to be truthful to our partners. And I think it's also starting with having these spaces like this to talk about it, because it happens all too much. It does. It happens too much. And like I think it was Lakeisha that said that Black women, we don't talk enough about our traumas because we're so told to be so strong, or that our feelings or
Pray
emotions is
about it, get over it.
invalid. That part, that part, Jesus will fix it. Yeah, okay. But yeah, we talk about that type of things, but we're not really talking and addressing the mental health things behind it. And PTSD is real. It traumatic. That what you went through was super traumatic. It was super traumatic.
That's PTSD.
That's PTSD. What happened when you went
Literally,
in the second time?
what
Yes.
you experienced was a PTSD event.
Yep.
You had a memory of what happened before. You heard the things, you saw the things, you felt the things. Your body had a somatic experience to what happened. That was a PTSD experience. Speaking from experience. Okay.
I didn't even, and I will be totally honest, I didn't know it was that bad until I walked into the hospital.
You usually
And then
don't.
I was
Well,
like,
you don't until it's brought in
and
your
I'm
face.
freaking out, and I was like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. And I'm pacing the hospital room. I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be. And it was, thankfully, I had an amazing nurse that realized something was wrong with me. But I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be here. And he was just like, we gotta have a baby. And I was like, we had a baby in the house. I don't want to do this. Like, I was like, I had went inside myself, and I was just like,
Which is so valid.
oh
It
my
is
Mhm.
god.
so
It's
valid.
so valid.
It is so valid. Take that
Uh,
in. It is so valid. As a human who been through something as traumatic as that, what else would you have done? I would have thought something was wrong with you if you would have went in there and just let them do it again. Like, without any issues. I would have been like, sis, we need to hold up. What? So, sis,
Yep, what's going
yeah,
on? Yep.
I would have been like, we need to go get her checked out because clearly she done just erased that whole event out of her mind, period. But no, this is so valid
Mm-hmm.
but to your point,
because I can't even
it's about
imagine.
sharing.
Go ahead.
I'm saying to your point, it's about sharing with your partner as well. Exactly, as hard as it can be. Because for me, the situation that she had previously was our situation was completely different. I was in corporate. We had coverage. I had done all this research on facilities in the area. I found what I thought I was going. I told her I was at the time we were in Texas, so I was going to drive an ungodly amount of mileage to get her to a place that was going to be comfortable for her. But if something happened, would not let me just be in the room like breaking down mentally. So I was trying to find that happy medium. But at the same time, I'm thinking of, okay, how can we both be okay? But I didn't realize and I didn't know there was no okay for her. There was,
Yeah.
Yeah, and
that
you
that trauma was so dramatic that I didn't have that, or maybe even have the ability to take that into consideration of how bad that was. So on the again, so as a partner, you want to you don't want to have these relive these moments over and over again, but sometimes you do have to share that information so that people can understand and then make a judgment from there.
yes, that's
but
real.
I will say, he did find me a good hospital, and I will say hands down, the difference was my nurse. The nurse I had, and she was an older white woman, and she just looked at me and she was like, "What's wrong?" And I just told her bits and pieces of what had happened. And I don't know if she looked at me and felt like there's more to this story. And she just grabbed my face and said, "I'm gonna take care of you." And I
That
said,
that part.
"Okay."
That
And
part.
she
Because
said,
there
"What
are
do you
good
need
ones. There
help
are
with?"
good ones. We're not
Yeah.
here to
Yeah.
say that they're not. There
And
are
she
good ones.
Yeah.
There are
And
good
she asked me,
ones.
she said, "What do you want?" And I told her, and that's what I got. Like,
That part. Just
she
listen,
left me
y'all.
alone. She just let me do my thing. But that also, that, and I will say, be honest, that helped start my healing, because I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I don't have to be so terrified. But it was it was rough. And like he said, I just got to the point being and it was a thing. 18 months. I've been in my business for about that long. And so when I was starting, he was really pushing me to be a doula. He's like, "This is what you need to do." And I finally told him the story, like the full out what I just told y'all. And he just was standing there like, and he apologized for making me have a hospital birth. And he was like, "I'm sorry, I didn't know it was that bad. I'm so sorry." Like, and I was like, "It's okay. Like, I didn't tell you. It's not like you did it to me. And I just didn't tell you." And
Wow.
but yeah, so it was. I don't cry, anymore because I'm better to a lot of points. I get a little teary eyed, but that is why I go so hard with informed consent in my business. Like
Yes.
that is my like I don't care what kind of birth you want to have. I support women who want epidurals. I support women who want C-sections. I support everybody. But I want you to know these are all your choices. These are the pros. These are the cons. And if they try to play you somewhere else, it's not an option. And I don't let people like rush my clients and just, can you give us a couple minutes? Can you give us a couple minutes? Like,
Yeah.
no, we're not gonna make it. Nope.
Yeah.
Choice. It
So I'm
goes
gonna take a
down to that.
pause.
Yeah, it goes down to a lot of that. For time's sake, sis, let me I want to ask you all this question because all you all are beautiful doulas. Shout out to doulas. Cause y'all, if anybody know Savannah ride for doulas and midwives, okay, I am on that train hard. But this is why. This is why. So I want to ask you all, which we all know we gonna say the same answer. But how do you think, and how do we know that doulas is going to change these outcomes?
I'm actually gonna let him answer because he does. He learned a lot with me being a doula. I want him to answer from a man's perspective. How do you
Okay,
think a
come
doula
on,
will
man. I'm telling you,
Okay.
your point of view is needed and respected and valid just as much as these beautiful black women here with all locks. Shout out to all beautiful lock women over here. But yes, come on, sir. Come on, tell us how.
Like I said, being a man, you don't have these conversations, you don't have this education, you don't have this perspective, nor do you even ever have the thought process of what it's like to have a child. Depending on your background, it can be extraordinarily put off on the woman. Like, okay, they'll worry about that. You just go to work, or you just have situations where it's just not something that you're going to be cognizant of or completely understand. So having a doula, as a male perspective, most of the time we don't know what our role is. And our role is, you get very protective, more protective than you probably normally are at that time, and you want to make sure that you're, not messing up the situation, but you want to be educated to what is happening, how you can help. But you don't, at the same time, you don't want to be left out. You kind of feel like a third wheel, like, okay, well, this is not about me anymore. Having a doula, from watching my wife and seeing other doulas work, brings that all together and helps for the male partner in the situation, helps them understand that, okay, you are very necessary. Your support and your love and even your understanding of what the plan is, your knowledge and moving forward, going with everything that we have planned as far as what our child is going to do and how this process is going to work for us is pivotal. So, I salute you ladies as well, just in, helping men understand, in their situation and in their process, in their points of view, okay, how important we are to the process, where we can be of use, and, what is the best stance for us to take when we're in those facilities. Like, even in situations like my wife, where I always tell her, she knows me, I choose violence. So situations like that, where if she's like, the catheter issue and the water, I know I'd have been locked up in Shreveport, state prison or whatever's over there. But one of them doctors or nurses would have went with me. So it's one of those things where you want to have those education points to know that when you get in there, all this stuff is not new to you, because at that time you just react and you're already have a heightened sense of emotion. So you don't want to be one of those people that just get in there and you don't understand what's going on. So having a doula helps, kind of prepare you for that aspect or whatever may come during your birth.
Yeah. Okay. You on mute, Savannah, I think.
because I was trying to make sure that I didn't get no noise in the background. That because we needed to hear that. You hear me? I wanted this to be crystal clear. But no, real talk. That is so valid. And I should have said this because I didn't. Because that your story, Lakeisha, showed that we can't just have any doulas, right?
Mm-mm.
We can't just have
We
any doulas. We
need
need
representation, baby.
representation
Representation
matter. Okay,
matters. Because
culturally, cultural doulas is what we need. Black doulas is what we need.
yes.
Okay, in safe birthing spaces is what we need.
Yeah.
Educated doulas is what
So
we need. Come on, Lakeisha.
the other thing that helps by, especially if you are a black woman seeking black birth workers, I mean, you need to be a black woman seeking black birth workers because we are going to be the ones who have the most of your interest at heart, your best interest at heart. Um, the experiences that, yes, we might all come from different experiences, backgrounds, all that stuff, but we have a general cultural understanding that just, other people are not going to have. They're just not. There are definitely some ally doulas out there,
There are,
you know.
as are midwives.
Yes, but
Facts.
they will put those black women in those spaces where they can feel most elevated. If you are a true ally birth
Come on,
worker,
come on.
if you got a black person that comes to you looking for support, you're going to refer them to a black doula. A true ally will do that
That part.
because they know and understand that you need somebody who doesn't look like me. I can't represent you the way somebody who looks like you can. So yes, from here on out, I'm seeking all the black support, because that experience um really told me a lot, and they were the ones that made me feel the most abandoned in that space.
Mm,
Um but I'm an educator and I have to educate, right?
come on,
So when we talked a lot about informed consent, I want to give you those 7 steps.
come on,
Okay.
sis. Drop them
Those seven
gems.
steps are important to understanding whether or not you were heard in those spaces that you enter into. Okay. So the first step is the provider needs to tell you all your options. Simple. If you have a treatment that you need, or you have an issue, y'all had gestational diabetes, right? So your provider should have told you what all of your options were in that particular with that disease process, quote unquote. They should have told you what all of your options were. From there, they should have explained the risks and the benefits behind the procedures, behind the treatments, behind the medication. That's what we as doulas call using your brain, right? So we talk about benefits, risks, um, alternatives. What happens? What did my intuition say? And what happens if I do nothing or don't act right now? That is your brain. Okay. So whenever you go into those spaces, those are the questions you need to be asking about. You need to be asking about the brain. Okay. From there, you as the consumer, because as a patient, you are still a consumer. Your insurance are paying for these services. So you deserve to know and to be able to ask questions. So you as the consumer should be able to ask questions. From there, you receive the answers to your questions to your satisfaction, not to the provider satisfaction, to your satisfaction. Okay? From there, you get time to say, you know what? Let me think about what you just said. Let me process all of that. Give me about 20, 30 minutes, whatever. Come back and I should be able to discuss that, right, with you. When they come back into the room, step number 6 is you share what your decision is with your care team. And number 7, and the best, like the most ultimate step that that you had informed consent, is that your needs were respected, you were listened to, you were heard, and you should have gotten everything you need. If they didn't follow any of those steps, then you did not go through the full steps of informed consent. If they belittle you, If they manipulate you, if they coerce you, if they make you feel like you have to do or your baby gonna die, you need to walk up out the damn hospital. You need to get up, you need to leave, you need to go on ahead and choose you a new provider. You need to say, you
Ooh,
know what, doc, I don't need you in this room. Can I get another doctor? If you
you
don't,
have the right.
you have the right
You
to
have
choose
the right.
who is in your birthing space all day, every day. And I'm sure the four of us can tell you when we interact with clients, we are talking about informed consent. We are telling you what your rights and stuff are. I give you the Black Birth Bill of Rights. I give that to my clients. Okay? So everybody should know what their rights are. And these
Yes,
same rules apply even if you are not in the birthing space.
that part. I was just about to say, even
You
if you
still
don't get a doula, sis, educate yourself on if
Yes.
else your rights,
this
especially walking into these hospitals.
yes, because it not only goes for your birthing space, this is your primary care. This is
That
your
part.
dentist. Okay.
That part.
This is anybody who
Your
is
psychiatrist, your therapist. Come on now.
every damn body. You have the right to informed consent for everything. Okay. Point blank. And that's
That
it on
part.
that. So I gotta educate. Now I'm gonna teach
Thank
you about
you.
the
Thank you.
right.
No, thank you. We do that. We do that here at the Hood Talks podcast. We have to. We have to educate. We have to share this information. We got to keep having these conversations because if we want true change in our community, this is how we gonna kick it off. This is where it's gonna start. Y'all hear me? Y'all know how I do. Y'all already know how I roll. This is how we do, and this is what we're going to do. We starting off 2022 on the right note. So shout out to any of those pregnant mamas out there. Y'all share this with anybody that y'all know is pregnant. Get them help. Get them help. If they ain't got a doula, tell them know their rights. Know their rights.
What's the name of charity doula beans? Get you a doula, sis.
Get you a doula, sis. Shout out to Charity.
Shout out
Doula, sis. Yes, 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 yes. Well, thank you, ladies, and thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you for joining me at the Hood Talks podcast. I appreciate you all stories, experiences, dropping them gems, sharing your experiences. I know again how hard this can be. I've been in that space. I understand, and I know that a lot of that is why, as much as me, you all have pushed into the spaces of being doulas also and supporting our women. Whew. Thank you all for all those who have tuned in to the Hood Talks podcast on this great cold Saturday. But you know, I appreciate you all taking time to watch this show. I appreciate everyone that shared, commented. If we didn't answer your questions, I'll ask my guests to please try to answer those questions. Go back and take a look. Please and thank you. I will try to do the same. And that's we coming back. You know, we do our live shows now every once a month. But let me correct myself because we do have now kicking it for a cause that will be kicking it off live every Thursday at the fourth Thursday of the month. That's my crew. Shout out to Miss Kelly Gowan herself, my GOAT DJ. That's the DJ AP. Y'all know how we do. That will be like a community town hall. We
You know,
gonna
I
have
went to
fun.
high school with them.
You did?
I
Small
did.
world. St. Louis is so small. You know it is. You know it is. STL is small out here. But shout out to them. Them my folks. I love, got nothing but love for them. So Kicking It For a Cause is now under the Hood Talks podcast umbrella. Again, we will bring in that segment every fourth Thursday of the month at 7 o'clock live. We having fun. We doing it all. Doing it all. And then we got so much stuff dropping in 2022, y'all. I'm so excited for the Hood Talks podcast. I mean, we got so much. We have straight the storytelling segments being dropped. Shout out to my first guest. He did that. It's out there on all of the major podcast platforms. I get to literally sit down and have one-on-ones with people in the community. I like to keep it private because, you know, everybody don't want all that glory or fame. We want to, you know, that little 2 seconds or whatever you want to call it. But I keep it private. But you get to literally hear the real and raw stories of community people out here doing things in the community or just their experience living and growing up in STL. And then, of course, we have the Hood Needs is still very real. It's still popping off. And I now also have the Hood Hill segment. I'm touching on everything. Sister ain't playing out here, okay? I am literally not playing out here. So we got a show dropping every week. We start off the month with a live panel like this, and then we go into every Thursday with a show that will be out here. I ain't playing. I'm not. I'm not. Because we gotta change, and change starts with having these conversations. Because they love to say, I didn't know. I wasn't aware. I didn't know. Well, you know now. So what we gonna do about it? All right, y'all. Well, that's it. I'm gonna let y'all get up out of here. Again, I appreciate everybody watching. Again, keep tuning in. I ain't playing. Follow the Hood Talks podcast. Go ahead, check us out. www.thehoodtalks.com is our website. And we are out. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page and also follow us on all our social media. And you can find all of that information at www.thehoodtalks.com.